Next question is from Gagin American, saying, Armin, has the truck protests in Ottawa affected you in any way? And also thoughts on the individualistic European and ex-European colonies having anti-mask slash vaccine protests versus collectivist Asian democracies like Taiwan, Korea, South Korea, and Japan not having these protests. Any opinions on the best way to have an individualistic culture learn about collective responsibility? I thought this was a very interesting question, but it's insanely complex.
Well, I have all the answers. Don't worry.
Oh boy. Give
First
it to
of all,
us.
no. I live online, so it doesn't affect me at all. But okay, so first of all, let me just tell you, the protesters are pure cringe. Okay, like the mandates were a good idea. Canada did a very good job at vaccinating everybody. And did we overdo the mandates? I hope so. I sure hope so. Okay, like between underdoing them and overdoing them, like when it comes to pandemic, like I hope like we overdo them. I hope every time we face another virus like this that we overdo them instead of underdoing them. Okay, we don't know how goddamn we don't know if this is like, oh, just like another disease or the end of civilization as we know it. We can't wait until it comes across and decide like, oh, what would be the exact right measure to take. Okay, like after the fact. Okay, like is it possible like now we're like, oh, the masks were too much, oh, some of the quarantine, some of the closing of the businesses, some of the not traveling was too much. Oh, we were right. Were you right? Now you know. We wouldn't know. How could we know if something like this is unleashed on Earth, on the planet? I'm pretty sure that it makes a lot more sense to take it, to be on the safe side, be on the conservative side, and go extra, like, like we don't want to discover that we should have done more. We want to always discover that it would have made more sense to do less. Okay, because you're never going to get it exactly right. You're never going to be on the spot. Okay, you're never like, oh my god, we did exactly what we were supposed to do. That's never going to happen. Okay, so when it comes to saving the planet, okay, I don't care that some people are like, oh, I can't go to the restaurant, or oh my god, this mask is so inconvenient, oh my god, I lost my source of income, or yeah, well, as opposed to, like, I don't know, risking the entire goddamn planet. I don't care. Okay, I mean, I care, but like not as much as I care about the other things. Okay, so the protests are pure cringe. Okay, pure cringe. However, what's more cringe is the response by the government. You're shutting down people's bank accounts. Are you serious? Okay, so this goes into the same category of I don't like what the hell you're protesting for. In fact, I think there should have been, like, I think Canadians should be happy with how their government dealt with I think the Canadians should have been grateful upon this, what happened just recently. Okay, Canada was one of the best performing countries when it comes to vaccine rates and everything. Okay, everything they did, like, they were ahead of everybody else. Okay, so not everybody else, but one of the leading countries. Okay, so they did a very good job in responding to the pandemic. However, as much as I don't like what these protests stands for, and I think like it's like the vast majority of these people in these protests are like science denier, conspiracy theory loons, and I don't like these people, and I don't like their ideology, and I don't like what they stand for. I don't like what they think. I don't like their conclusions. However, I do have this habit of defending protests as long as they're not aggressive and as long as they're not like harming other people. Okay, so if they're harming other people, if they're causing other people misery, or like causing people's businesses to shut down, and like noise pollutions or stuff like that, I'm in favor of sending in, I don't know, the military or whatever to just make sure the bridges are open and that people are not being harmed. I'm completely okay with that. But I am definitely against like these anti-protest measures that the Canadian government is taking. Like, what the hell? Like, what is it? Like, this is the superiority of United States compared to Canada. You could just walk in, you could just close people's bank accounts. You could, like, tell every single financial institutions not to do business with them, not to lend to them, shut down their fundraising. What on earth is happening? Is this like, are you trying to make the cringiest people on the planet, turning them into heroes? What are you doing?
Oh,
Like, this is
straight
like,
up.
yeah, like what on earth is happening? Like, I didn't know my government can do stuff like this. Like, what? This is like, I have never been more anti-Trudeau in my entire life, right? Like, I have been I have been defending Trudeau over so many different things. Okay, I thought so many people were being unfair to him on so many different, beyond his just like pro, anti, some anti-free speech, just like words that he used. I was against that. Some making excuses for Islamism, I was against that. But overall, I think his performance was amazing. But now I'm like, what? This is like, by Canadian standards, this is like, by North American standards, this is like the highest level of tyranny I ever seen. Like, you could like, there, Trudeau is like, yeah, like shutting down their accounts, and also telling every single other financial institution that you could be, you will pay the price if you do any form of, like, they're not even defining what level of involvement with any, who's defined as one of the protesters, and what level of financial involvement with them would be considered something that is penalized, that you could penalize them for. And so what do you think businesses are going to do? They're going to be completely conservative, guys. This is, I don't know, this is like some, I don't want to act like one of these right-leaning stuff that everything looks like 1984 to them. Like, if they get if they're, oh, seatbelts, oh my god, 1984, oh my god, I have to wear a mask, 1984, oh my god, I got a speeding ticket, 1984. I don't want to act like one of those guys, but if anything is like, could be like, oh my god, this is 1984, your bank account being shut down by the government because you're protesting. Are you serious? Protesting is like getting the government to like shutting down your bank account and seizing all your assets. This is like, anybody that is on the side of enlightenment values and freedom, and freedom of assembly and freedom of speech and freedom of holding the government accountable, they should be like, they should be against this. Like, I don't care what side of the protest you are. I'm against these protesters. I'm against everything that these protests represent. And I'm being forced into defending them because you're shutting down their fucking bank accounts. Are you serious? This is like, not, is Canada supposed to be a liberal country that where people's right to protest is defended, and people's right, like, what, like, their right to assembly? Okay, if they're holding bridges and if they're causing problems, send in the military. Don't shut down the entire protest. You have to facilitate areas for them to be able to protest. You could be like stopping them. Like, they opened the bridge with military. No need. You don't need to freeze people's bank accounts. Like, what is this? I don't know. What do you think, Susanna?
So I kind of haven't been paying attention to the truckers' protests for the majority of it going on, just because, I have a certain amount of bandwidth that I can devote towards paying attention to the millions of things happening around the world. And, for the majority of it, this didn't pass my threshold, something to pay attention to. I was aware of and I kind of tune in, but not like really tracking the details. But this latest development, invoking emergency powers to completely circumvent due process for any given individual, it's freaking insane. And I completely agree with you. Like, everyone, I mean, okay, so I, browse Twitter, and I see a lot of Canadians on Twitter like getting angry at Americans who are getting outraged about this, because they're like, this isn't your country, and this is good because our lives are getting affected by this, and they don't have the right to like mess up our economy and all this stuff. Like, I'm not gonna. So the impression I've been getting from Twitter, which is not representative of people at all, is that Canadians themselves are like, yeah, like, just do it. Or there's like the very right-wing Canadians, and they seem to be the only ones who are like throwing up their arms about this. But I don't know what the actual mood in the country is, because regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, or I don't know if that's how you talk about it in Parliament. I don't know what you do over there. But like, you should be freaking outraged about this. This is insane. I completely agree with Armin in terms of, Like this, if you have a value, or you should be defending Enlightenment values, and this completely flies in the face of that. And I agree with the fact that the sentiment that this is suddenly giving legitimacy to all these protests. You know, they were calling it the Freedom Convoy, and Armin said, you know, like it's very cringy to be asking like a public health mandate is like this freedom thing, but now this development really is a freedom issue. It truly is. So now you're just validating and giving them legitimacy and urgency. I hope there has to be legal challenges to this, not let alone like all of a sudden any insurance you have on your own vehicle that you privately own, your private property, any insurance you have on it is now revoked. It's invalid. Like it's insane.
They shut down their fundraising, and now they're warning. They're warning every other form of fundraising. Like, guys, like this is beyond. Okay, so people are like, oh, but they're blocking this and blocking that. Well, send it the military, okay? And every time they're causing they're blocking access to like hospitals or clinics. Well, you need to be more like, you know, send in the military and open those routes. Like, oh, they're blocking this bridge and people are like losing. Well, send in the military and open the bridge, okay? You should that's what the government should have the authority to do. That's what the government rules is. The government shouldn't have an authority to decide who's like sending you money and seize your bank account. That should not be a power. Like, this is like really insane level of government influence. Like, guys, I'm not on the side of these protesters, okay? But part of being in favor of liberalism and Enlightenment values means respecting the rights of people's protests, even if they're protesting for things that you're against. That's the whole point of being a liberal, okay? It doesn't mean like, oh yeah, I defend freedom of speech and people's rights to assembly and protest only when they agree with me, only when they're on my side, okay? These people are definitely not on my side. I support the protest, okay? I support the vaccines. I support the mandates. I think the mandates should have gone a lot higher and a lot earlier, okay? A lot of the mandates become a lot less influential because they were added later than they should have been, okay? Apparently, okay? I don't know, I'm not an expert, okay? So this is what I've been hearing some experts say, okay? Don't take anything I'm saying when it comes to health related stuff seriously, okay? But anyways, even though these people and guys, look at the question, okay? So Gagin American is saying, yeah, so this is the cost of individualism that you have to accept, okay? When you don't hold people collectively responsible and make them act like a collective, there's going to be a lot of individuals who do not act the way you like, okay? So people are like, oh my god, yeah, we're promoting individualism and people are not being all responsible and like towards the one direction that they should be moving, right? In times like this, collectivism might seem attractive, okay? But don't be fooled, okay? Because collectivism, even if like at times like this you were wishing that more people would just accept the narrative and just move in the direction where everything would be productive, that kind of attitude, once it takes hold in a society, it will be misused in the form of making the entire collective move in directions that are very costly to individual liberties. But the collective doesn't care. The collective is just doing what is being told, and the collective is doing what is supposed to be responsible. The collective is just doing its duty to maintain the peace and just being a little good boy, just being submissive and just be like, I've been told what to do. Okay, I'm just gonna do this, and just like I'm just gonna do it because Big Daddy government told me to do it, or Big Daddy like religion or whatever told me to do it, and I'm just gonna accept what I'm told because this is how what being a good boy is like. Okay, so when you and then when you do that, when that kind of ideology is promoted, when collectivism is promoted, then what's going to happen is that's governments, when they have that power over, like whether an ideology or a government has that power over a collective, they will misuse it, right? They will misuse it not in favor of the individual, at the cost to an individual, in favor of themselves, right? So but then when you promote individualism, you're going to see a whole bunch of people acting in a way that you don't like. and you're like, maybe maybe collectivism would be better. Okay, no, okay, this is the price we pay. We let the cringiest people have free speech. We let the most insane people do protests for things that are dangerous. Okay, but we have to deal with it. Okay, when all of us as individuals are moving, what you do is you try to push for education. Hey, here's a good government role. You just try to equip the individual with better critical thinking skills, with better knowledge. Okay, so don't go for a collective over individual, just strengthen the individual. Okay, because when you have a very aware and educated and critical individual, then even though every individual is moving independently from other, the net benefit of that is going to be better, even though at times you're going to look at certain individuals and you're going to be like, I wish there was a sense of duty involved. I wish we had a collective. I wish people were just more submissive and accepted these rules because it's better for all of us. Yeah, these are the costs we pay. Okay, but it's worth it. It's worth it. We have the stats, we have the data that shows that individualism succeeds, even though at times it backfires, even though at times we have like a whole bunch of cringy people, anti-science people protesting. You defend their rights to protest, even though we don't like what their views is. You stand your ground. You protect the values that have shown historically to make societies better. Individualism, right to protest, freedom of speech, limited government. Okay, a limited government, I don't mean no government. The government has a responsibility to send in the military and make sure free trade is happening. All the roads are open. Access to clinics and hospitals are not none of that is disrupted. People are not suffering for noise pollution and other stuff like that. Send in the military. The government should not have the authority to shut down people's right to protest by freezing their goddamn assets. Are you fucking serious? Is this Canada, or is this the Islamic Republic of Iran? Is this China? What is this? What the fuck is this? This is a liberal country that your assets can be frozen because you're protesting? This is insane. You should be against this.
I completely agree. I think I saw another question sometime today where someone was saying, like, given what's happening in Canada with the reaction to these truckers' protests, why are they not taking a hit in their democracy index, along the lines of other countries like India or other countries that do these same kind of things? Well, the short answer to that would be, like, this happened very recently, and those democracy indexes are evaluated, on like an annual basis or even longer. So it's not an immediate, like, this event happened in your country, -5 points. No, this is like an annual review.
Vikram saying, so it's okay to use So he's saying it's okay to use the military, but not okay to block their bank account. Use the military for what? Are you going to use the military to just make sure there's no protest? Then no, you can't use the military for that. Are you going to use the military to make sure that that trade routes are open and access to essential care like hospitals and stuff are not disrupted? Then that's an okay use of a military. Okay, but you can't use neither the military or freezing of people's assets to shut them up. You shouldn't use the military or the bank freezing of assets. The government should have okay, guys, the freezing of people's assets is actually a lot more scarier than sending in the military. Okay, this is like a very silent way of like completely taking people's. At least when you send the goddamn military, you could watch it on TV and be like, okay, what's happening? You're taking people's rights away? If you just like, oh, you're one of the protesters, oh, like just like you lost everything, whoop, just like everything. Like, you know how scary it is? At least I could see a goddamn soldier coming at me, right? Like at least I could walk away when it comes to a soldier. A soldier like comes in and like, hey, move, empty this area. I just like, okay, like I don't want this level of risk. I'm just gonna this is not what I signed up for. I could just walk away, right? But taking someone's assets away, this is, at least there's a cost for the government to be like sending some troops there to just maintain the peace or whatever. Okay. When the government has the authority to just like wipe away everything you own or just make it impossible for you to do trades with other people, that's just like with no cost to the government. You could just you're giving God level power of control to the government, because with like just a signing of a paper, they could silence you. That's a level of authority and a level of control that everybody should be scared of any government having. Because if the government can do that, then they don't even need a military. They could ruin your entire life without even sending any troops. They could the level of you're a complete puppet. You're like nothing. You have chains all over you. If with just a decision, and they could just make your all the tools that you have to maintain your life, to support your children, support your family, to buy food, to be able to live. If any government would like this, they could make that all disappear. Then every time you think you have free speech, you have to understand that you have free speech only because the government finds your speech not costly enough to them. Because at any point of time, they could decide that you're too much of a hassle to them, and they could just like shut you up without even sending the police, without even putting you in jail, just making your entire life just disappear right in front of you. Do you know how scary that is? Do you know how much more scarier that is than a military, like facing a military, when the government could just silently make you submit to them? If anybody is not upset about this, then you are not a liberal. Okay, if anybody is not against this, you are not inside of Enlightenment values, and you're not a liberal. Okay, I do think like a lot of right-leaning people use this line of like, oh my god, this is tyranny too often. Okay, as soon as the government enforces anything, they'll be like, oh my god, tyranny. Okay, so I would like, throughout this entire pandemic, I was laughing at them. I was like, this is not tyranny. We have a goddamn pandemic. Our seatbelts tyranny right now. Like, you don't have a right to spread disease. I'm sorry, you don't have the right to spread disease. This is not tyranny, okay? So I was in favor of all the government like mandates and everything. I was like, I felt they were not going enough. I was in favor of like forced vaccines, okay? Like, I was in favor of sending in the military and vaccinating everybody. Okay, that's how much I'm in favor of government.
Oh my god!
No, but okay, so because like, hey, you don't have the right to like smoke and like puff it into my fucking face. You don't have you have the right to smoke, but you don't have the right to spread that to me. Okay, so you don't have the same right with goddamn viruses. That's why I was in favor. Like, that's not a right that you can enjoy. Okay, so I was like, I'm not one of those people that just shouts out tyranny every time the government does something. But this is now all of a sudden, this is like makes me like, now all of a sudden, like, I'm gonna sound like one of those right-leaning people, cringy right-leaning people, because I'm calling this shit tyrannical. Okay, this is tyranny. Okay, I mean, not full on tyranny, but whatever.
Oh my god. Yeah. And people in the live chat are commenting about like the precedent that it sets. It's very dangerous.
Yes, because from now on, because right now everybody was like, well, this has happened before, and apparently it hasn't. They're lying, right? But now, from now on, if it happens, they could say that. Apparently, this is a line that everybody accepts, because if the government wants to do shit like this, like right now, from now on, if there was a precedent, people keep throwing that around as if like it makes it okay. Well, like, we have precedent for this. We have done this before. So from now on, because we have set a precedent, that line of reasoning is going to be a lot more acceptable to people. Well, we have done this before. Jesus Christ, great. Now this is the new normal. God damn it, guys! Make sure that this is like, please help by making this a little bit less normal, by like screaming about it or something, right? Like, be like, holy crap, what the hell? This is Canada, not like China. Please stop. Okay.
You thought you heard honking before? Now you're gonna hear just screaming in the street. Oh, Secular Sakai sent us a manual super chat by donating to our GoFundMe.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Secular Sakai. That's so sweet. If anyone else wants to donate to us, you can donate to our fundraiser that goes towards our legal expenses regarding our precarious situation in India right now. You can find more information about that on the GoFundMe page, or you can donate to our PayPal, or you can join us on Patreon, where you will become a priority patron if you want your questions answered first, and ensure that your questions are answered even if you can't attend live during our Q&As. And you also get our sexy blasphemous art, all for as little as $1 a month. So link for all those things in the description. It helps us so much. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without the support of people in our audience. It make a huge difference.
Note
So
to the
thank you,
Canadian
Secular
government.
Sakai.
Note to the Canadian government, this fundraiser that we have is under our U.S. entity. Okay, so even though I am against what the Canadian government is doing right now, and
Don't freeze our bank accounts.
Don't freeze the fundraiser. Okay, I know as a
You
Canadian,
have no authority here. This is not your jurisdiction.
It was Susanna who opened the fundraiser. I know I'm a Canadian, but Susanna is American, so do not touch our fundraiser. Thank you very much, Canadian government.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. We could talk about this for a long time because this whole trucker situation is crazy. Yeah, good job like aligning everyone who has a freaking backbone along with these people when they didn't have a stake in it before. Nice.
Guys, just like we defend Muslims when people like are violating their rights, that doesn't mean we agree with Islam. Okay, so that means that also with these protesters, even though we disagree with most, like 99% of what these protests are about, we have to defend the right to protest, as long as and people are going to be like, but they're blocking this and causing problem there. Okay, those again, that's the government should come in, send in the military, those specific areas where it's causing other people like a lot of hardship. Those specific things should be solved with the use of a military. Okay, but that should only happen if you could provide, if the protest can continue. You should be able, these events should not be used as an excuse not to make it impossible for the protest to exist at all. The protest should be able to exist. That's what the military should. The military should do very surgical. It should not come to shut down the protest. It should just be able to come.
They have to provide an alternative that would meet their standards of legality.
Yeah, exactly.
They have to.
And so,
actually, by the way, I don't know if they have to, because this is in America. You guys don't have the First Amendment. Sorry.
By the way, some form of hardship should be accepted because that's the nature of protests. Okay, like every protest will cause some pain. It shouldn't just be pain to the level of I can't reach the hospital. Okay, it shouldn't be the pain in the form of everything, the entire economy is shutting down. Okay, like businesses are failing. Like some form of if we want to say no economic hardship, okay, well then we're just saying no to protest. We're saying no to the protest. We're saying to protest against apartheid in South Africa. We should be oh yeah, that was economic hardship.
No BLM.
No BLM, none of this. None of what protest would not have economic hardship. I think there's certain level be okay, this is too much. People's lives are being destroyed to a level that is unbelievable. I think that is.
There was a lot of that during the BLM protests. How many videos did we see of people literally jumping on top of ambulances and they can't move forward when people trying to be transported? That is unacceptable.
So we are in favor of making a higher level of police presence to stop that, for the protest to continue, but the economic hardship to be reduced. But I'm just saying, even though we're in favor of reducing the economic hardship, you cannot expect no economic hardship. Okay, I mean, part of the power of protest in holding the governments accountable is to be able to inflict on the government some economic cost. Okay, that's how protest works, right? So there needs to be a cost. Again, even though we don't agree with these protests, we can't just be oh yeah, we would be in favor of protests that are fighting for something that we believe in by forcing some cost to the government, economic hardship on everybody. If it was in our favor, we would be yeah, this is how protests work. So we would be defending that. So why would we not defend the right to protest in the same way if it's on the other side? I just think there's a line that you shouldn't be crossing, but I don't know where that line is exactly, but I don't think we should expect no economic hardship. That's too much.
Hal Jordan is saying, I wish Armin and Susanna were politicians in India. Right now, there's no party I want to support.
Well, just whatever has the highest chance against the BJP, or even if you don't like them, support whatever could remove the BJP.
Please. Please? Atheist Republic needs your help. We've been the target of many legal attacks by Hindu nationalists ever since our founder, Armin Navabi, blasphemed against Hindu deities. We have retained legal counsel to help us defend our access to our community in India. We have started a fundraiser that will help us afford to tackle many legal issues, including judicial harassment and censorship. Whatever you can contribute will go a long ways in helping us in this fight. Link in the description below.